Jefferson Robbins with NCW Life. Every seat is up for grabs on the Wenatchee School Board this election year. We're joined by one of the candidates right now for Wenatchee School Board District 4, Miranda Skalisky. Thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Can you introduce yourself to people? Let us know who you are and what you do.
So a little bit about myself. I've grown up here my whole life. I moved here in '94 with my mom and my sister. My mom taken a job opportunity to work for Wenatchee Police Department. She worked there for nearly 20 years. There at that department before she was in the military for 20 years prior to that. And then growing up here, I graduated here, went to Wenatchee Valley College. I finished my degree in 2020 in criminal law and justice with the emphasis in juvenile behavior. And so with that, I had worked at Chelan County for almost 10 years, working in juvenile department as a custodial officer, and I had worked in Superior Court as a court clerk, doing a variety of tasks and listening in and documenting different types of court hearings, from civil litigation, family law, and juvenile offender calendar. And then about 2 years ago, I had taken a different change in career path. So I currently work for the state of Washington for Department of Social Health Services. I work for Adult Protective Services as an investigator. So I cover Chelan, Douglas, and part of Okanogan County.
Was it something about your work, say in the juvenile area, that made you think that running for school district, you could be of service there?
Not at that time, no. What triggered me to run for school board 2 years ago, and again this year, is that I wanted to give back to the community at some capacity. I've been an active person volunteering in a variety of different organizations since high school. So I've done volunteer and police services through the Wenatchee Police Department. I've been an intern with Wenatchee Police Department when I was finishing college as a community outreach coordinator, and I've been a volunteer, and I was through Camp Fire, North Central Washington Camp Fire, which used to be Camp Fire Boys and Girls. I currently sit as their board president for that organization. And I also have been a coach for Special Olympics for track and ski and snowboarding. I've been a tutor at Wenatchee School District through Avid and Gear Up. And that's just a variety of different clubs and organizations I've done throughout my life and when I was working.
Observing the board over the last couple of years, in your first campaign and afterwards, are you able to identify particular mistakes or missteps the board has made that you think, well, if I had been there, I would have voted differently, or I would have tried to change course?
I think the board is doing everything that they feasibly can to help advocate for everybody in the district with the resources that they currently have. Although there is always ways to improve, and there's things that I may not entirely agree with, but then I'm taking the benefit of the doubt. This is the best judgment for the board, that they see something and they're aware of something I may not be aware of. One thing I think is just very vital is to address the budget issue that we currently have, and identifying what is essential for us to keep into the school district budget to help our students and our educators and families, and what will not be a benefit. I understand, in speaking with a lot of folks, that the WIA program that was available the last year or so up until this school year was something that families really wanted, because that's where their students were thriving. And now that not being available was disappointing.
WIA, Wenatchee Internet Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was the remote option
Yes.
that a lot of students pursued during
Mm-hmm.
COVID and afterwards.
Yes.
And that essentially, by the board's decision, doesn't have a place right now.
It doesn't, no.
And do you feel like if you were elected, you'd be able to restore something like that?
I think not restore it in its entirety, but find something that's similar that can accommodate for those students that still wish to choose to not go back to school 100% in person, or there's students that can't adapt to in person, whether it's for mental or behavioral health or education, that for some reason they can't be focused in a classroom, but they do more well being in front of a computer in their own quiet home environment. I would try to find a way to accommodate that for those that do need it.
Recently, the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction published regular report card that they
Yeah.
do on all school district, and the Wenatchee School District has fairly poor grades in that area, in the 40% range for the three primary areas of learning. Do you have anything you can attribute that to, and how do you turn that around if you're on the board?
It's finding how, so those scores, I think we need to recognize, it's also statewide. My oldest stepdaughter doesn't reside here in the Wenatchee School District. She's in the Pasco School District. I went ahead and looked and see what's the difference. What's Pasco maybe be doing something that Wenatchee is not, kind of taking that data in, and it's relatively the same. And so then I looked in other schools, like over on the Seattle area. They're all kind of seeing some medium of scores, and now focusing in Wenatchee, what are we to do better is making sure that we are accommodating for our students and their families at their educational need of how we're going to help them thrive, whether it's more hands-on learning. Is it something that we need to have more educational tools and resources within the school or outside of the school for students and families? Because not only is it just the educators too, but parents are more than welcome invited. And I know there's some parents that may not have those extra resources or attributes, like how are we going to help our student if our teachers are showing them how to do a math problem when there's more than one way to help our children learn. So just trying to build that communication and have a continuity of building those scores, and then also those scores for our underserved youth and families. We need to help them to get those test scores to where what we would like for them to be at, so they can thrive within the district.
The school district in the recent past has adopted diversity, equity, and inclusion standards, and these follow along with standards that are promulgated by the state. They're in state law. OSPI recommends them as policy. Some people have said, why do we need this in our schools? Do you feel like DEI has a place in the Wenatchee School District?
I think it does, and it just making sure that everybody is feeling included and making sure everybody is having just not equal access, but also finding ways to making sure we're meeting those accommodations for everybody, just not the students, but also for their families, for community members, and for our educators and staff. And if there's not, then it's up to the board, it's up to the district, making sure those needs are being met and addressed for, because we don't want anyone feeling as though they're being left behind or not being heard.
Well, Miranda Skalisky, candidate for
Yes.
Wenatchee School Board, District 4. Thank you very much for being here today.
Yes, thank you for having me. Do appreciate it.
You're watching the NCW Life channel.